All right. We got Mike Glaspie here. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself to the people on the panel and to the podcast here?
Absolutely. How's it going, everybody? My name is Michael Glaspie. I spent 10 years in the military. Majority of it was in special forces as a Green Beret. During that time, I started investing in real estate. And, one thing kind of led to another where I accumulated about 17 doors before I decided to get licensed. And a partner and I created a realty team. And since then, the realty team has grown to over 100 agents in 28 markets. My rental portfolio has grown over to 130 doors. I've done everything from subject to seller finance, hotel syndications, and everything of that nature. And now I primarily work as a business coach and business consultant for real estate business owners, right? Helping them really understand how to operate like a business instead of just, operating deal after deal after deal.
Nice. That's a very impressive resume you got there, Mike. So what got you into what's your beginnings like as growing up? Were you always trying to go to the military? Like, how was that like?
That's a great question, man. So I come from very, very humble beginnings. It was a single parent household. It was my mom, me, and my sister. She didn't make a lot of money. We were objectively, if you look at it, we were below the poverty line. Um, so in my mind, everything that I was taught was you get money to survive. That's just what it was. There was no saving, no investing, none of those things. It wasn't until I moved into my with my father when I got a little bit older where I started to realize that my circle started to expand. Right, it just wasn't the kids that I was hanging around with. I now started meeting kids whose parents had money and had this and now that. And I'm like, okay, so maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something more out there. So that really inspired I guess my business acumen. And since high school I've been running different kind of businesses, everything from selling cookies, selling candy. There was a tutoring thing for a little bit. I was working with the DECA, which is a business program that we had at the school, and it just flipping cars. It just came all the way up to where we're at now, right, which is the housing piece.
Nice. And what made since you're 18, a lot of people here that listen to this are also 18. They're like, "Oh, I'm an adult now, and I'm out of high school. I don't have, or they got kicked out of the house or something, right?" And now they're either thinking of going to college, going to the military, getting a trade, something to like
Mm.
basically provide themselves. So, what is your point of view on that, and why did you choose the military?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I joined the military because I didn't have no money for college. I'm just gonna be real. Like it wasn't. I never had like this foresight to be like, I'm gonna defend the nation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So long story short, I needed money. I was working two jobs at the time in college, trying to pay my way through. And then a buddy told me, "Hey, man, the military will pay you for it." I went and I asked him about it. The military brought me on. I had the $20,000 signing bonus at the time. And matter of fact, I was in the National Guard at the time too, because I never thought I was going to do full time active duty. But as soon as I got into the military, within literally about 8 months, I was in the National Guard, by the way, and I was an 88 Mike. I was sent to air assault school and the airborne school.
Wow.
And I know it's never heard of, right? And I didn't even know how crazy it was back then. I was just like, yeah, this is what happened. But from a Texas boy, never left the state of Texas, never got on a plane before the age of 19. That military was just kind of opened up my eyes, and I'm like, yo, you mean to tell me you're gonna pay me to jump out of planes, travel the world, and do all this other stuff? So it was like an easy recruitment. You know what I mean? As soon as I
Yeah.
graduated, I was like, no, I'm not gonna go in the corporate world. Just sign me up for the military, man. I'm gonna do something cool in the military. And that kind of led down the attempt for the SF route and all that.
Now, once you're in the National Guard, you switched over to active duty, your
Yeah.
next contract or in that same contract?
Well, in the same contract. So what I did was I was still so right when I graduated college, I was already working on the paperwork and I was actually able to transfer over in the National Guard contract and just move it over to active duty.
Mhm. And what made you transition to to special forces to a Green Beret, or how did you get into that?
Yeah, so when I started it, so when I first, it was like, okay, I'm going to try to take this serious. I wanted to be an Army Ranger. All right.
Oh,
Now, at the time, that's all I knew as to be like special operations, right? I didn't know anything else about any other special operations besides like Navy SEALs. And I was like, nah, I can't swim that good. So I wanted to be an Army Ranger. So I go to the recruiter at the time. I'm like, I want to go active duty. I want to go Army Ranger. And the dude tells me, Nah, man, because you're already in. We don't have any type of prior service ranger contracts, right? And I didn't understand it at the time. I was just told no, basically. I'm like, okay, well, what else y'all got? He was like, well, have you heard of special forces? I was like, no, but tell me more. And then once I started diving into that whole field, I was like, okay, all right, let me try it out. Let me give it a try. Worst case scenario, if I don't make it because of the training that you have to go through, I just would have came out classed infantry, and then I would have just went from there, right? In my mind, I was like, I want to enjoy my military career, so this is going to be fun. If
Hmm.
they kick me out, well, then I got plenty of other options in the military. And ultimately, if I don't like it, I'll just get out. That was my mindset in the beginning.
Nice. And what would you say for those that are trying to get into special forces, how would you train for selection and basically do like, what would you need for that? Do you need a
Oh, yeah.
mindset, like training? What would you
Ah,
need?
absolutely. Mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. The biggest thing is oftentimes, if you guys heard of David Goggins,
Yeah.
he talks a lot. Yeah, he talks a lot about, hey, the body will quit before the mind, or no, no, I'm sorry, the mind will quit before the body can, right? And it's like, once you think you can quit, you got 40% more. All of that is true, by the way. All of
Yeah.
that is 100% true. And oftentimes, the people that don't make it through selection or some of the more rigorous schools in the military is because they give up here. So what I would suggest for it is a mindset, but you can train that mindset. And the best way that I have found to train that mindset is to do more of those long distance endurance training and races, right? Start training for a marathon, right? Do the Spartan race. Like, I know it sounds kind of crazy. Y'all like, yo, what? But maybe don't get up that high to a full, maybe a half marathon. But nonetheless, once you can get your body used to going through that long term pain and discomfort, and you can
Hmm.
get your mind over the fact like, yo, this is going to end at some point. I could do it. And you're going to be in good hands, because most SF guys that you might think of aren't that big and muscular and powerful. A lot of them are slim, man. They just last long.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you actually recommend like, hey, you got to train like long distance. You got to do this like Spartan races if you can. And yeah, I was looking into doing all that stuff as well. And would you recommend people for the military or would you recommend going to college? Like, why didn't you go through the officer route if you could?
Yeah. So, I was actually in ROTC in college.
Yeah.
So if I had stayed on the same path, I would have graduated and I would have commissioned in the Guard. Um, but in my mind, I was like, let's go SF. And then I found out during my research that there's two paths. SF as enlisted, you're going to be SF for a or you're going to be operational for a long time. Put it that way, meaning,
Yeah.
boots on the ground. Whereas an officer, you're going to be operational for maybe 3 years, maybe four.
Hmm.
And so when I really thought about it, I said, you know what? I want to enjoy my time. I want to experience it all. I'm going to go enlist. Now, there's nothing wrong with enlisted or officer, and matter of facts, like hindsight being 2020, there are a ton of benefits as an officer that I was not aware of. And if I could rewind the hands of time, I would have went the officer route. I would have
Gotcha.
went the officer route. Um,
What are some of the benefits that you found out?
yeah. So one, when you commission, you get a first time commission loan or something like that. Essentially, it's up to $30,000, and it's like less than 1% interest, right?
Wow.
And it's like your career starter loan or something. I forget what it's called, right? I didn't get it, but I became aware of it. And if you think about that, at $30,000, right when you graduate college, and you don't have student debt because you graduated for free. If you took that $30,000 and just put it into like a retirement account, or not a retirement account, but like stocks and bonds or something like that, you'd be good. But that also could be your ticket to your first rental property, right? In addition to that, officers get BAH right away, right away. So it's not like enlisted where we got to wait to E5, or we got to go get married with another service member just to,
Yeah.
just to get that dual BAH. And there's so many more, man. So I had no idea, but they have intermediate trainings where they'll actually send people back to get their master's degree for 2 years, fully paid, fully covered as if they were active duty. But they're going to all these different schools. Some of these guys are going to Harvard, Stanford. I mean, it's insane. So if I had known about all of those extra benefits and knew what I wanted to do with them, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that'd have been a no brainer for sure.
Wow. I didn't even know that either. And Now, would you recommend people join the military, or would you recommend them going through college first in a way? Or like don't
Oh,
even do college at all?
yeah, that one's a real hard question because it really just depends on what you want out of life. Oh,
Mhm,
okay. Let me say this though. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. So I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree, I have my PMP certification, CCIM certification, all these other big national designations. I'm gonna be honest with you though. None of those individually or all collectively have given me a specific job title, career path, or anything of that nature. Most of the time, when you look at certain jobs, they'll say, oh, you need a bachelor's degree or you need a master's degree, but it doesn't necessarily clarify what it is, what school you go to, any of that. I personally enjoy going to get educated because I just like to learn from others and then I apply it whenever I learn it in my own businesses or with my clients. But man, if that ain't your style, don't do it. Don't waste your money on it. Don't waste your time on it. You know what I mean? You could
mhm.
make just as much money. You're doing something you enjoy and you love and not wasting hundreds of thousands. Matter of fact, people will pay, let's just say $100,000 to go to college, but you can go out and get like a badass one-on-one mentor course or something for like $10,000. And people like, oh no, I'm not paying $10,000 to get this awesome one-on-one personalized training. I'd rather spend $60,000 where I'm just a cog in the wheel and I just get spit out and they forget about me. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that's my take on it anyway.
Yeah, I definitely changed my mindset about that too. I'm like, what? Like, I used to be like, oh, why would I spend $3,000 or $5,000 for like a group or for a person to get coaching from? But I've seen like, wow, this person actually really is focused on you, and people pay like 100K or even more on college, and they're not even the main focus. And like you said, they're just in the rat race doing the whole
Yep.
thing again.
Trying to
And
pay off the debt. Yeah.
oh yeah. And did you do anything entrepreneurship or business related while you were in the military, or was it just strictly like, hey, I gotta grind, I gotta work? Because us military guys, we're not working 40 hours a week. We're probably working like eight, like more than that. Like it's like
Yeah.
you're not. It's not a 9 to 5. It could be a 9 to 8, a 9 to 10. Like it's really tough. So what did you do during that time?
Yeah, man. So the way it broke down was I actually bought my first house with the VA loan,
Hmm.
and I was actually renting out to some of my other buddies because we was all single. We was like, whatever. We'll just all stay together. It helped me save money, helped them save money. Um, and then as I continued to look more into entrepreneurship, I tried all that kind of stuff like MLMs, like Amway. I tried it. I wasn't successful at it at all, but I tried it. And to be honest, I learned a lot about how to speak, how to communicate, how to offer, and all these things from it. So there were some lessons learned, but as I did that, I realized that that wasn't for me. And then I went to a real estate like seminar, one of those like 2 day or 3 day seminars.
Hmm.
And I was sitting there, and the dude was going through the Rolodex, and he was like, "But hey, you can also house hack. That means you buy a house and rent out the other rooms." And as soon as I realized, I was like, hold on, I'm house hacking. You mean I'm an investor? Boom. I just went down the rabbit hole there, man. So I was actually doing a lot of active investing while I was active duty. I was doing, the house hack. I did some live in flips. I used the VA loan multiple times to get triplexes, duplexes. I did some subject to seller financing and all that. And because I did it while I was in the military or active duty, it gave me that safety net because if I messed up, I had a fixed paycheck, coming in. That wasn't going to change. So I explored a little bit and ultimately I landed on the real estate.
Nice. And I got a question here from Sami. He's saying that Sami here is asking me, how would he get into like using a VA loan or house hacking whenever he doesn't have BAH or any of that sort? Like he's an E4 and below.
Yeah. So, all right. So E4 and below is special because, at least from my experience, and it may have changed. I've been out now since 2020. So 2 years have passed. But
Hmm.
when I was in, E4 and below had to get permission from the commander to actually live off base. All right. So if that's the case now, the way that we always help some of our junior enlisted do it was they had to present an entire plan of what type of house they were getting, why they chose to get the house, how they were going to handle it financially, and then present it to the commander. And the commander still had the ability to say, nope, you're going to stay in there. Right. So if you want to do house hacking, well, one, as an E4 or below, you can qualify for a home. You can, because they're going to look at your income from the military. Now, it may not be a lot, but you'll qualify up to a certain amount, and then it's going to be up to you to find a house that fits that price point. But when you present it to your commander, if you're like, yo, I'm living here, but I'm renting out these other rooms, and this is why I'm actually going to save money by buying this house, and you go through all the math and stuff, that's going to increase your chances of that commander saying, okay, you got a plan. You got a good head on your shoulders. So yes, we are going to approve it. And Sami, I think, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you might be asking like, how can I show more income? Is that kind of what you're leaning towards?
Yeah, how would you, I guess, like, is it a possibility since they don't have BAH? Would that be a possibility going into that, or is it like they're going to be going outside, going renting out these rooms without BEH? Because I guess a lot of people, they're kind of afraid that they don't. Again, they're making like 30,000 and below while they're in the military, but they're not. They're kind of afraid like, oh, what if this situation happens and they don't have that BEH? Like, how can they counter that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So the beautiful thing about all homeowner loans says that you have to intend to occupy within 60 days and you have to use it as your primary home. So let's say you do that and you rent out the other rooms. You're not going to get BAH. The BAH is a safety net, right?
Hmm.
But to your point, hey, all of a sudden my buddy's leaving. It's just me and I don't have BAH. I can't afford it. You can move back into the barracks and then you can rent out the entire house to another family or another person. Okay. So it's not like you're going to be stuck in that position with no other options. It's more about how creative can we be and figuring out which option is best. All right. So you can always rent it. You can move. You can go out and buy another property if you can afford it with your income. All of these things while after you purchase your first one and you're looking for options there.
Nice.
When it, yeah, when it comes to income, just so you guys know, if it's not military like BAH or something that counts immediately, if it's not a W-2 related, if it's side hustle or anything else, you have to have 2 years worth of history before any lender will count that and say, okay, yeah, that's more revenue. So just keep that in the back of your pocket, in the back of your mind as well.
Nice. And since what would you recommend for those that are transitioning out of the military because they see it like, oh, it's a scary thing, right? Is there really something out there? Because while you're in the military, you might have been deployed, you've made friends here that have the same, like, not that you have the same mindset, but you're groomed to have the same mindset. Where like, hey, 0630 PT and all that stuff, and now
Yeah.
you wake up one day you're like, hey, I'm trying to get out, but I just don't know how to do it. Like, what am I going to do? Because life outside has been moving on while you're kind of in this space where you're like, should I enlist again? Because I don't know what I'm doing. And you seem like the right candidate because you kind of got out of it. You're like, and you kind of you built yourself like a net for yourself. So what would you recommend for someone that's trying to transition out?
I'm really glad you asked that question, man, because I don't think this is addressed enough. Just like you said, when we're active duty, the world around us moves on.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on, but yet we tend to think that people notice our absence, right?
Yeah.
I don't, we think that, oh man, I haven't talked to my friends in a long time. Maybe I should hit them up. They're probably wondering what I'm doing. They moved on,
Oh yeah.
right? And it's not a bad thing, but we just need to be aware of it. So what I'm saying is, all those relationships that you care about, you have to put in the work to maintain them while you're still active duty. Otherwise, they're going to move on with their life. They're going to realize they're not a priority. And so when you get out and you try to go back and you think that your same friends or whatever who acted that way, they're going to act the same way. No, no, it's not the case. They probably got families, kids, a new job. They might have moved. And the transition back into reality for me was extremely hard because I had it in my mind. I kind of had it figured out in the military and I had my business up and running and I was producing income. But when I came back to the real world and reality slapped me like, yo, look, everybody has moved on. Now I feel alone. It
Yeah.
was really weird. It was really weird. But in the meantime, while you guys are in active duty, foster those relationships, man. That's extremely important because when you get out, the worst, it's common, but the worst feeling that you can have is feeling alone. Like there's nobody there who understands you in the civilian world. There's nobody there that you can really talk to that would just shut the hell up and listen, right? Excuse my language, right?
No, you're good.
But um, it it could just don't forget that. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare nobody or anything, but just understand that relationships are so important. But you got to put in the work while you're active to maintain them for when you get out.
Yes. And what are some things that you done that helped you out in that getting out?
Yeah. So when I got out, I did have a small network of people that I trusted. They trusted me, and I can kind of lean on them. But it actually took me to I went to therapy, and I still go to therapy, right? Because I just had to understand. For me, I mean, I spent over a decade, and a lot of times I was in foreign countries a lot of the time, and I was very direct. Like, this is military. This is what it is. You do this. Now you get out and you're trying to run a company, right? Or you're just trying to be a happy man. You got to realize that other people communicate differently, right? So
Yeah.
I had to learn, I had to train myself how to do that and make sure that I'm not pissing off people, and coming off rude and crude and everything else. But what I would recommend is that, okay, and I'm not going to say everybody just go to therapy. My number one recommendation is that you start now and you start to listen more than you speak. All right.
Mm,
90% of the time, just listen more in conversation. What you're going to do is you're going to start hearing how the person feels. You're going to hear their perspective on things, and you're going to take it all in and digest it. And you'll be smart enough to kind of pick up on, okay, maybe this is the right approach to take this conversation to avoid conflict, to guide them down this path, and things of that nature, right? So listen more than you speak.
yeah. And would you recommend them getting their college degree while they're in? And I know you speak a lot about going to the VA before you leave.
Yeah,
Are those things like you seem like, okay, this is what you should do before you leave? Is there anything else that comes to mind? Because what I can think about is get your college degree if you can
yeah,
with your tuition assistance.
yep,
Get your VA benefits before you leave, such as
yep.
uh, you know, uh, what is it? What else is there?
Disability.
Yeah,
Yeah,
disability.
so yeah, get the college degree with the tuition assistance, guys. Just go out there and work for it. All right, even if you don't get the full degree, just go and get started. But if you get that degree with tuition assistance, when you leave, you still have the GI Bill. Now, let me tell you about this GI Bill. One, you can go to school full time and get your thing, or you can go part time. You can go online and get it, and they'll pay for the whole thing. All right, so maybe that's your master's degree, maybe that's your second bachelor's, or maybe you pass it on to your wife or to your kids. But when you go and sign up, you get full BAH for whatever area the college is in. That's insane. So you can come out, and some of these places pay $1,700 a month, $1,800 a month, tax free, right? And so while you're going to college doing your thing, and it's already free, and you get $1,700 a month that goes to your pocket. I mean, come on, right? And if you're doing it online, they won't give you the full amount, but they'll give you $850 a month. So when
Wow.
I got out, I was house hacking. I had my company, and I was going to school online. So I was receiving $850 a month on top of everything. Right. So there's just a lot of benefits to that. Disability is another thing. Definitely make your claims while you're still active duty. I made a video about this a while back. But the importance of it is when you go and claim now while you're still in, well, when you get out, it's a lot easier to start tying things that start to ache you later in life back to the military. If you wait too long, you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to say, "Yo, that's 30 years since I've been separated, but this knee pain, it's definitely the military." They're gonna be like, that's kind of, I don't know about that, right?
Yeah.
So those two, VA loan. Only reason I say use the VA loan while you're in, if you can, is because you still have that full income, like that fixed income.
Yeah.
That income is never questioned by a lender. When you get out and you get a new job, that might be different, but you may have a break before you get a new job. So try to use the VA loan. Um, Understand the life insurance policy and what the alternative that they offer. I don't even know the name of it, man. I don't know if you do. You know the name of the life insurance policy? It's not the.
Like the
Doesn't matter.
universal, like the long term, like what do you mean?
No, it's the so we have the $400,000 death policy in the military.
Yeah.
I think it's the SGVLI or something like
Yeah,
that. Where,
SGLI, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
well,
when you get out, they have another one just like that. Understand, it's inexpensive, right? But just understand what it is, term life, and I mean, we can talk all day about different life
like
insurance policies
yeah.
and all that other stuff, right? Yeah, I know you got some too, man.
And
But
once you let's say you did leave, what was the first thing that you did once you got out? You got your DD 214. You're like, yes. Was it like, oh, let me take a break for like a couple months and then hop back in, like we'll live with my family or live with myself for a bit, take a little vacation, or what did you do? Like, what was your mindset towards all that?
no, man, I got out and I just kept grinding, right? Because I already had the companies up and running. So
Hmm.
now I was like, oh, I could double down now. But hindsight being 2020, man, I would recommend taking some sort of break, like, and celebrating it. It's Now, if you're getting medically separated or something like that, and you're not happy about it, that's understandable. But for the most time, I like to think of our previous chapters in our life as time. It's time to celebrate. That was a
Yeah.
good time. It was a great time. But hey, we're on to the next chapter. There's so many more adventures out there. So take some time off, celebrate it, and then just kind of get re-excited and reinvigorated about the new opportunities.
Yeah.
I kind of overlooked that.
Yeah, I like that. I started actually doing that too, started celebrating more of my achievements because I remember I would always replay that Kobe quote in my head, like, is it finished yet? Nope.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
why,
yeah.
why you have it? Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not finished. In my head, I'm like, I'm not finished yet, but I got the certification. I got this, but I guess I'm not finished, right? Then
Yeah,
I was like, damn, I'm kind of, let me just enjoy this a little bit. And now I'm
yeah.
tending to enjoy like, hey, these moments in my life. And while you were in the military, what kind of companies did you grow? Did you start your podcast right away, your military cashflow podcast, or
Yeah.
what have you done while you
So
were in?
yeah. So the real estate investment company was really the first one that sprouted, and I still control today. And then we started the team next, the Five Pillars team,
Hmm.
and it was just a few of us at the beginning, and now it's grown. But by starting those, then Dan Wynn, who's my co-host with Military Cash Flow, he had actually started a podcast, but he didn't really like the direction it was going, so he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, can we come together and then create Military Cash Flow?" Which was amazing. So then, I came in, we kind of reformed the company under Military Cash Flow, and then that one kind of went off. And I think that was it. I think that was it while I was active duty. And what I tried to focus on while I was still serving was finding businesses that aligned and vertically integrated, so it wouldn't be difficult to make them work, right? So for example, if I'm out there investing, all right, cool, that means I'm buying and selling, so let me just get licensed. Now if I can't buy or sell it, I'll just sell it to somebody else, right? And now I can represent a client in there. Okay, that's too easy, I'm already looking for deals. Cool. Military cash flow was, hey, I'm in the military, I'm transitioning out, and I'm in real estate. Great. So now I just get on camera and I talk about everything that I'm doing or I'm experiencing.
Hmm.
Right. And so I try to keep it very succinct while I was still active duty because we, like you said, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week sometimes. And then afterwards, I was able to really open it up.
Nice. And you were said that you were meeting up with people, you were networking. Do you have any
Yeah.
key things that people should know, or like how to's to like get into networking with people? Because we live in a little bit more of an introvert world where a lot of people, they have computers, they have cell phones. They're more hermits now than they are before. Is
Yeah.
there any things that you would recommend for those that that are like, oh, let me connect with this person to see how I can do business or what I can do with the like. I guess a lot of people, I see it as giving back.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for those that are trying to network?
Okay. This is a good one. This is a good one because I feel like nowadays people say they network, but they go to events and then they leave with nothing.
Yeah.
They leave with nothing, not even a business card, or they got the business card, but they don't do anything with it. So, listening before you speak, like I mentioned kind of earlier, do more listening is going to be extremely beneficial to networking. With that being said, though, a lot of times you might have to start hey, how's it going, man? What do you do? What's your name? All right, and then just sit back and listen.
Hmm.
If you guys study the great book How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's all about how you engage somebody and you keep the conversation focused on them,
Yeah.
because the more they talk about themselves, the more they inherently trust you. It's
Yeah.
psychology, right? But with that being said, what I like to do is I go to every networking event understanding what I want to take away from there. So for example, if you're looking for money, if you're looking for deals, if you're looking for a partner, whatever the case is, and now when you go out and you start these conversations, if you keep the focus on them, you can guide the conversation. You're asking the questions, you can guide the conversation. Within the first, oh, I'm still here, guys.
Yeah. You
Within the
can.
first minute and a half, you can tell, like, okay, maybe this, or maybe 5 minutes, whatever, but hey, this person can't help me with what I'm looking for. All right. So right then you can go ahead and end the conversation cordially and move on to the next person. But if you're not focused on what you want, a networking event is just you talking to a bunch of people, man.
Yeah.
So I recommend you go in there with a game plan, and not saying you can't talk to these people later, but make sure you get what you need from that networking event first before you start deepening other relationships.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that because I know, for myself, I'll go into a group. or I actually I've done this like either some with some YouTube videos. You know how you watch like the same podcast like over and over again. But my thing is, if I can gain one thing out of it, uh, that can bring me up somewhere like in a different level, I
Yeah.
just try to look for that. And instead of like mindlessly listening to something, which a lot of people do, they just
Yep.
mindlessly listen to like a bigger pockets podcast or anything. They're like, oh, they took notes, but it's like really nothing useful. But I'm like, what is that one key factor that's going to help you like get up to the next level? And I agree with your thing. Like, and how would you recommend people exiting out a conversation with from people without being rooted away? Because I'm trying to still figure that out too.
Yeah, man. So I just straight up tell them like, hey, look, it's great to meet you. There's a lot of other people I want to talk here, man. If you think it's good, there's value in there, hey, let me get your number real quick. And then I'll text you right after this, man. But hey,
Mhm.
great pleasure to meet you. And then I just move on, right? I mean, just being honest, because people, for whatever reason, man, there's a fear in society about being honest, right? Because
Yeah.
honest can sometimes sound rude. But like, if you're genuine with it, hey, look, I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend you, man, but there's a whole bunch of other people I wanted to talk to. It was a pleasure to meet you. And then you can either grab their information if they might be of value, or if not, be like, hey, pleasure to meet you. What was your name again? All right, cool, man. Hey, we'll see you around. And then you move on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I mean, and obviously you gotta fit it to your personality, your style and stuff. But yeah, man, just being honest and not even trying to sugarcoat nothing. To
I
me, that's been the best. Like, like it's most freeing thing too.
Yeah, I definitely started doing that as well, especially meeting with Alex, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
he's like a total 100% honest guy. I'm like, God damn it. Like there's something about you that that makes you like have people attract to you. I'm like, what is it? Oh,
yeah,
he's just super honest with people. I'm like,
exactly.
and I'm like, and he his like honesty basically gets rid of the people automatically that he does not want to associate with and brings in
Yep.
the people that he wants to associate with. And I think that's like the key thing. Uh, for me, it's also a level of maturity too that comes with everything.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
like if you want to be like, I know for me, I'm still like a young guy, 20. I'm like I still have that oh like my words I say. I'm like maybe like if I'm going to speak with someone that's an older gentleman, I probably don't want to use these words, but I know it's like a difficult path because I'm trying to play yin and yang in this where I'm a young guy trying to speak with someone that's older and they're using different terminology. And if whenever I say something like, hey, that's dope, and they're like, what does dope mean? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh shit. Okay. Okay. Now we gotta like, figure out something here. But yeah, I definitely like I say you gotta be honest with people, like, listen, you're
Yeah.
old, but I still want to do business with you, or I still want to do this with you. And I think you're a great candidate because, so like, especially today, I was like, some dude called me about, I was mailing out addresses today, right? And well, not today, but I mailed out a week ago and I was on a run. Some guy called me. He's like, hey, I'm trying to uh, sell my 24 unit apartment complex in Fayetteville. I'm like, okay. Would you do seller financing? He's like, nope. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm like, he's like, I bet you're an investor. I'm like, yeah, oh yes, I am. For me, I want it at a cheaper price. So whenever I call these people, I'm like, listen, I'm honest, and here it is, right? I want it at this price. I know it hurts, and I tell everybody like, you're gonna get a bunch of like, fuck you for this. Like, I don't want like you're offering $60,000 for a house that's worth 200K, right?
Yep.
And they don't like it. You feel really weird asking it too. But I think that's what makes you a good investor and a great salesperson as well. And
Yeah.
while you were doing like uh these like networking and all, what have you seen like the difference in like especially me, like whenever I was seeing you, I'm like, damn, this guy has what is it, EXP growing, you guys have pints and properties, like you guys
Yep.
are growing all this like in a short amount of time. Like what made all that possible? What do you believe that made it blow up like that?
Oh man. So a lot of these, so I have business partners, right? I
Yeah.
have business now. Some of my rental estate holdings is 100% me, and my consulting companies are 100% me. But everything else, there's business partners, man. Honest, the key to growth, the key to growth is finding your people, is finding your community. Because what happens is, especially if you partner with the right people, like Shelby, she's freaking amazing, full of energy. When you partner with the right people, they're going to attract other people, right? They're going to attract right people. And what's beautiful about it, everybody that comes to the circle, they all have the same mindset. They all have the same mission. They all have the same the vision, the goals, the values in life. And that's really what people think about it. Every person that you like on social media, comedy, and movies or whatever, you genuinely like that person for some reason. Think about it. You
Hmm.
like him, right? It could be a football player who's just because he's nasty and he don't care, he's just rude. You're like, I like him. He's raw. He's
Yeah.
authentic. You vibe with it. It's the same thing in business, man. The when you find your tribe, when you find your community, growth is inevitable. And it's easier to find that community when you find the right people to work with because your message together is a lot louder than just you by yourself. And so I've been blessed to find the right people in my life to help all of these things grow. And then obviously when it's outside of our control, we find more people that are a great fit and we let them continue to manage it and continue to manage the growth as well.
Man, I love that. And what makes a successful partnership? What do you need to have in place to have everything set up where like it's either 50-50,
Yeah.
80-20? Like what makes everything like really successful in that way?
Yeah, so it's like you said, the yin to the yang, baby. That's pretty much it. So all right, so everything legally that you need, guys, you're gonna want your entity, your LLC, your S corp, C corp, whatever you want, and then the operating agreement is the other document that you need. That's going to clearly define percentage of ownership as well as roles and responsibilities. That's going to keep you clean. Okay. Now, that's legal. Now, partial legal, partial finances. You're going to have business bank accounts with certain roles and everything else, and an understanding of when you guys get paid. Okay, that's the check the box legal and business structure stuff. Now, how do you find the right partner? What I like to think of is you have to know yourself first, right? Socrates says that the found or the beginning of wisdom is knowing yourself,
Yeah.
right? So if you really know yourself, then you're going to know what you're really good at and what you're not. So when you're looking for a partner, let me ask you, like if you were really, really good at crunching numbers and analyzing deals, but you sucked at sales, would you want a partner who was really good at crunching numbers or really good at sales?
Really good at sales.
There you go. You got to find the people that can bring that yin to your yang, but they still have the same mission, the same vision, the same values, and the same goals.
Yeah.
That's what I recommend because I've had a couple partners that did not work out very well. I'm gonna be
Hmm.
honest, right? But the ones that stuck around and for the companies that have truly grown, that's what I found to be common.
Nice. And with those people that I guess you're putting into your team, uh, how do you know like they like I know it's like so some people they say like people if you don't have it in contract, some people they want more, they get a little greedy or like
Yeah.
how do you handle that with those people that you're doing business with? Like what do you make sure like oh yeah, 5 years down the line, you guys see that you guys are really successful, but now you guys are making a lot more money and someone's, having that human emotion go through like, hey, I kind of want to get paid more. What do you do in that situation?
That's why that operating agreement that I was talking about is so important because
Hmm.
it's going to lay out everything. It's going to lay out, hey, if you want to get out of the company, this is what you got to do. How are we going to value the company when it's time to sell or whatever, or buy you out or whatever?
Yeah.
What happens if you die? Like all of that is going to be in the operating agreement. To your point, that does happen. There's been people who's like, yo, I want to get out. I want to cash out. Pay me $300,000. Like, no, we paying you nothing. What do you mean? Right? We got to go back to the operating agreement. So understand that will happen. And for me personally, if I see that happen, then I'm going to try to cut ties with that relationship as quickly as possible. No hard feelings, no hard feelings. But if it starts now, only imagine what it's going to be like if we continue to grow.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely agree. And what do you say about doing business with your friends or family members? Because a lot of people they're like, oh,
Yeah.
don't do it. Me and my personal thing, I think people should do it, especially uh if you're friends with them and you want to like this is how I see it, right? In the military, you go through a lot of shit with your buddies, right? And you guys can connect even more. So in the
Mm-hmm.
business side, I'm like, hey, if I can have some of my friends with me doing business, we go through the shits and we also go through all the fruits of our labors as well.
Yep.
So, and that will build a better connection, and now we know each other in a deeper way. But if now that I know that they're not in a business type of friend, I put them like if my video game friends, right? If I were to still play video games, I'll put them to the side, right? I'm like, hey, if I want to have fun, I go to those guys. If I want to
Yep.
do business, I go to these guys. So, what do you say about your whole idea of doing business with your friends or family members?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, man. I agree. It's like so it sounds bad to say. It does sound bad to say, but like your friends, they have their place. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
not
yeah,
disrespectfully, but like you said, your video games, your sports, your golf, what are you drinking, whatever it is that you like. Every group of friends has their place. So when it comes to business, it's the same thing. I'm looking for the yin to the yang. I don't care if it's my brother, my mother, my father, my cousin, my niece, if they're not the yin to my yang, I'm sorry, man. I don't
yeah.
need you, right? I'm not going to go and if you want me to help you start your business, well, hey, you know what? I got a business for that. And I want you to treat it that way. I might give them a discount, but I want them to understand the power of investment, right? Because there's so many more aspects. I mean, put it like this, man. Everybody's got a good idea.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a good idea. And if you become successful, right, then your family's going to see it. You know what they're going to do? Man, I had this idea.
Yeah.
Man. I had
Yeah.
this idea about back here and this other. So you have to be careful, and you do have to guard against that. It's no hate against family. It's all love. And I mean, if one of them can actually show that they can provide value, then
Mhm.
yeah, hell yeah, all day.
Man, I agree. I agree with that 100%. We have Chris here with a question. Go ahead, Chris.
Earlier, you were talking about taking life insurance policies. I've heard people. Sorry, I've heard
That's
people.
Alexa.
Yeah. um, like I've heard people being able to take lines of credit and like loans of property they already have. Is that something you can do with a life insurance as well, or?
Yeah, so great question. Great question. So this is going to dive a little off into a narrow niche here. So there's different life insurance policies out there. The military offers a term policy. A term policy means that there is a definite end date of your insurance coverage, right? So it's a 30-year policy. So let's say you're 20 years old today, just hypothetically. By the time you hit 50, all the money you paid into it is all fine. It's all gone. At 50, the coverage is now gone. That's a term policy. There are other policies out there, index universal life, whole life, cash value, all this other stuff. Certain policies that have a cash surrender value, which are typically going to be your whole life or your universal lives, they will allow you to take a loan out against your policy. Now, there's a whole bunch of different variables there that we can dive into, but you can take that loan out from that policy and then apply it to anything that you want to include real estate.
Mhm.
So if that answers your question, but you can't take necessarily I wouldn't call it a line of credit, but it's essentially a line of credit, right? But you're taking a loan against the policy is what it will be referred to as.
And like, what would be the kind of limit that you would expect, like the end value or the present value?
The limit to the loan amount.
Yeah.
So the limit to the loan amount is going to be based on how much cash you have available in the policy.
Okay.
So
current. Okay.
yeah. So put it like this: you buy a death benefit policy for $1 million. That's your death benefit. That has nothing to do with your cash value. So say you're only paying $500 a month. Well, in order for you to get to 10,000, it's going to take you just two years. Just let's say. All right. So now 2 years later, you have 10,000. Now the policy may say, yeah, you can take out all 10,000, or they may say, oh, you can only take out 80% of the 10,000. But it's based on your cash value at the
Mhm.
time.
Okay.
Now, Mike, as an experienced investor, people are probably wondering, hey, what are you doing during this market, or what are you planning on doing in the future of your real estate?
Yeah, I'm actually selling.
Really?
I'm selling. Yeah, I'm selling over half of my portfolio, man. Next time you talk to me, I might be at like 40 something doors instead of
Now,
130.
a lot of people, a lot of like, Robert Kiyosaki and a lot of people, they're like, hey, don't sell. Why are you selling right now?
Well, for me, now that I've gotten to where I am, I'm still I'm still anal about my numbers, man. So I'm
Yeah.
reviewing the spreadsheets, and now that I can look at it as a 40,000 foot level portfolio view, I see which properties are giving me the returns on my investment that I want. Right, it's hitting the metrics that I want, and I see the ones that just aren't. So for me, it's like, why keep it? It boils down to the 80-20 rule, man.
Yeah.
Right. 20% of my properties are producing 80% of my profits. I want those 20.
Yeah.
I'll get rid of the rest, and then I'll redeploy the money and get more properties later, or put them into another business or whatever.
Mhm.
But I'm always trying to capture value, reallocate,
Yeah.
capture value, reinvest.
I agree with it, because now you're a smarter investor now than you were before. And
Oh
you're
yeah.
like, for me, it's the same thing. I'm like, I had my first property like through like a year or 2 years ago, 2 years ago, and now I'm at 4, and I'm looking back, I'm like, man, I should have not bought my first property, right? It looks the numbers don't work, nothing works,
Right.
and I'm planning on selling that one too. I'm like, just so I can, because it's like breaking even. I'm like, if I'm breaking even during the good times, what's gonna happen during the bad times, right? So
Right.
I'm like, okay, let me get that money out. Let me see if I can actually buy deals now because I've learned more about numbers. I learned more about, even though numbers don't change, you just have a better understanding how it works and like, okay, so if I see, some white women running around with their dog around this neighborhood, I know it's a good neighborhood, right? And I
Right.
know it's
Right.
gonna, if I know this house is next to a Chick-fil-A, I know it's gonna make a lot of money through Airbnb. So like I'm like, okay, I know some small stuff. It takes a lot of experience with that. And yeah, I definitely agree with like, oh, like selling properties. And I do see a lot of people getting mixed emotions about that. Are you doing like a 1031 exchange with those, or are you just like
So
nothing
some
with that?
some yes, some no. So I'm willing to eat capital gains tax on some of these because what I'm trying to do is also pay off non-performing debt.
Hmm.
Right. So I have some debt that's just sitting around. It's really not making a yield on it. I'll get like one of my properties. Unfortunately, I've lost all the value in it. It's up in Illinois. I've $100 some odd thousand gone out the picture. Right. So I'm going to get rid of those, but I still have a debt obligation tied to them. So some of these I'm willing to take that capital gains tax. I'm getting rid of that debt obligation, right? And it's going to balance out because I took a heavy loss, right? That I took some gains here, so it'll balance out a little bit. And then some of the other ones where I have significant amount of equity, yeah, the intent is to 1031 it, and
Hmm.
hopefully 1031 it into, because now for me very specifically, I want to buy only portfolios centrally located or apartment buildings.
Yeah.
That's it for my portfolio. So 1031 into one of those scenarios.
Now you probably have family members that say this, or probably like some friends that you know from high school or whatever, uh, that aren't entrepreneurs. They'll probably ask like, "Hey, when's it enough? Right? When
Yeah.
are you going to be done?" What would you say to those people, even though they see you're selling properties? They're like, "Okay, are you being done right now? Like, what is your plan?"
Yeah. So this is one of the hardest questions, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. So me and Shelby sit down, my business partner in a couple of my companies. We have this conversation constantly. It's always like, what's next? Because all of be honest, man, every single one of us are starting a company or getting into real estate because of one thing typically in the beginning, right? And it's enough money so we don't have to give a damn about money,
Yeah.
right? Well, once your bills are paid, and that's bare minimum. Once your bills are paid and you realize, like, okay, cool, money's coming in, I don't really have to work, then that really starts to test your character. Like, what are you doing this for then? So it has to be bigger than you,
Yeah.
right? It has to always be bigger than you. So I always encourage people to truly think, like, imagine what if money was of no concern to you. You can wake up every day and do whatever the hell you want with no fear of losing your house, your car, food, families, taking care of all of that. How would you spend your day? What would be the best use of your time? And if you can kind of submit that, then that can be kind of your anchor for motivation as you move forward. So for me, I'm looking for another layer of peace. I'm engaged now, right? So I'm looking to, be able to make sure collectively it's family solid. Maybe future kids come in, family solid. Money is coming in enough that, even if I wanted to take my kid on trips, we're good, right?
Hmm.
That type of passive income. After that, honestly, I want to help the next person do it, right? So that's why I've headed down the education. If you've seen on my YouTube, I'm dumping
Yeah.
out a lot of new content now. I'm focusing on the business coaching and consulting side because yeah, there's a monetary gain for me. Obviously, it's a business, but I can see the impact. You know what I mean? I can have a
Hmm.
direct impact on somebody else's success. And I mean, who knows? And it might change. It might change in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
But you always have to search it.
You're basically seeing a return on investment, not just on a money term, but on like your, I guess like on yourself. Like, hey, me helping out all these people, it gives me self-worth in a way. It's a bigger return on investment than I would doing something else by myself in a desk or something.
Yeah, it's like overall impact, man. So yeah, selfishly, yes, it does make me feel good. It
Yeah.
does. But what makes me feel good is when somebody's coming in and they say afterwards, Mike, man, for 2 years I've been drowning. But now I finally feel good. I'm excited again. I got enough money to take my family on trips. I got enough money to pay for this next. Like that feels good, right? And that's impact because that's not only affecting his immediate family, that's affecting all of his clients. You know what I'm saying? And his future generations, all that good stuff. So, yeah, I enjoy it.
I love that. Yeah, that's well said. What's the biggest challenge you face in real estate so far?
Biggest challenge in real estate is trusting people too early. So
Oh,
I mentioned that that property up in Illinois, I lost it. Oh man, it's all gone. I got lied to. So it was a turnkey company. They actually said that they were going to buy the property. I was going to pay. They were going to do the renovations, and then they're going to put a tenant in and pay for it. They did say sent me videos, walkthroughs, all this stuff. Well, COVID hit. No money coming in because they said eviction moratorium up here is too tough. We can't do anything. Eviction moratorium lifted 2 years later, right? And I'm hitting them up. Why can't it be rented? They was like, well, you need to put 30,000 in repairs. I'm like, why? It's been sitting vacant, hasn't it? So I get somebody to go check it out, bro. They sold it to me in distressed, whatever you call it, condition, and they never did any of the renovations. Never. There was
wow.
never a tenant in those suckers. So they took my money. They played me some. Maybe they took my money to pay me my money back as rent. I don't know, but they took it all, bro. So trusting people too early is definitely one of the hardest things I face. So for that reason, and I do have quite a few properties in different cities and stuff, but I have established connections in these other cities. But for every city that I don't feel like I have a strong connection, I'm getting the hell out of it, man. And
Mhm.
moving forward, if somebody's like, "Yo, we could do this together," I'm like, "Pump your brakes. Let's talk about it. Let's see if we can work together in a smaller capacity where no money's involved, and let's see if we can trust each other, right?
Yeah.
Before we go on too far." But yeah, I'd say that's the biggest hurdle so far.
Man, I love that. Because as a giant, like, okay, so as a giant yourself, right? You know how the whole saying, like, oh, I want to learn from the people from the past. I want to learn from, I want to be on the shoulders of giants. You
Yeah.
being a giant, what's some, you are a giant, all right? Don't get me wrong. Do not have imposter syndrome. You are a big player in the world of real estate and just business, and you're affecting a lot of people's lives, like it or not. I hear a lot when when I'm in my battalion. I tell them, hey, listen to this guy's video. If you're gonna leave the military, check out Mike Glaspie. Like, who's Mike Glaspie? I'm like, hey, I'll send you the link. I'll send you all this. Right? He's a good guy. Get his book too. I mean, it'll teach you a lot about somewhat like finances. And what are some advices that you can give, you being a giant, so that people can stand on your shoulders? Like, spit out some, like, hey, like you said, like, don't trust. Have a be quick, be slow to trust people. And I'm guessing like you're gonna say be quick to fire people as well if they are like, like sharks in your company. What are
Yeah.
some
Well,
advices you got?
I really appreciate the kind words, man. I really do. That's humbling to hear. So thank you for that.
No problem.
As far as everybody's heard like the be quick to fire, slow to hire type stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, what I've really learned is I agree. Stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So I read a ton. I know you guys can't see my bookshelf back here. I'll try to make
Yeah.
it real pretty for you guys. But there's a lot of books, man. There's a lot of I enjoy reading and I enjoy learning from others. Um, I listen, like I mentioned before. In the beginning, when I was younger, especially a 20-something-year-old Green Beret, this is what I did all day.
Oh
Nah,
yeah.
but see, nah, but see, and now I just shut the hell up. I just listen because you'll realize that you can learn so much just from what people are doing around you. I've also found that I don't necessarily want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be in a room of people that are working at a higher tier, and then I'm gonna shut the hell up
Hmm.
and I'm gonna listen to them. Work with people you love, and I think that the number one thing I would say, man, and this has changed fairly recent for me here in the past year and some change, is truly being comfortable with who you are and being authentic in a real and raw way. So, like you were saying, sometimes you go and you not you have to, but when you're speaking to like an older person, it's like, oh, should I say this? Should I say that? Right.
Hmm.
And it's a different type of freedom, man. When you're just yourself, you can say, no, that's dope. And he might look at you crazy. Don't worry about it. This is you're too old for this. You're too old for this, boomer. Right. And joking in that way, but with that, if that's your style,
Yeah.
but being authentically yourself, man, you're gonna find your tribe so much sooner. And you're gonna be able to say no to people you don't want to work with. And you're gonna be say, hell yeah, to the people that you do. So I
Hmm.
would say, and it's very hard for young men
Yeah.
to to truly understand that without the repercussion, right, or without the fear of repercussion. But it's something that I would challenge everybody to pursue.
Oh yeah, definitely because I know I see everybody as like, oh, I'll play like a prospect, right? Like, oh, you can definitely help me out. No, you can definitely help me out.
Right,
And it just comes from that saying like I think like they believe everybody has gold, right? Uh
right,
but like you said, like, hey, maybe though once you're in a higher level, you're not aiming for nuggets anymore. You're actually aiming for really big bars of gold. So you get for you to find those people, you just need more experience. So and what actually made you go further into commercial real estate? What made you like step forward, like, oh, big apartments or any of that sort?
yeah, man. So, being an investor first, I'm like a numbers nerd. I love data. I just like numbers. That's just it. Just is what it is, right? Now, not to say I'm not like the beautiful mind. I'm not that good at like calculus and trig. I just like numbers because I think numbers are real facts, right? It's hard data. So when I was doing investing, it was very easy for me to look at a piece of property objectively with no emotion because the numbers don't lie,
Yeah.
right? If you run them right. And then what I realized was that as you start representing buyers and sellers in homes, or like, when you go to a seller and you're trying to haggle the price, there's
Yeah.
emotion tied to the house.
Oh yeah.
There's stories that are tied to the house. And not to knock that or anything. It's just that's not me. I'm not the one to like weep over the dog with you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So in commercial, everything is treated like a business because the property functions like a business. So the same way that you're going to look at a business's profit and loss statement and balance sheet, you're doing the same thing in a commercial property. And once I was able to make that correlation, I was like, oh, this is for me. Oh yeah, this is all day. Now I can have much more of a business to business type of conversation than a business to consumer. And in that area, I personally feel most confident and I can thrive in that area. So it allowed me to move over, and the rest is kind of history on that piece. Yeah.
Man, I love it. I love that. And we got a question here from Sami saying, what are some softwares do you use? Like, do you have stuff like Appfolio or like what do you he said I'm guessing he's saying like what do you use for your daily like software use?
Yeah, man. So in the beginning, when I was investing by like just me, it was different. Okay. I was
Mhm.
using yellow letters. I can't even remember all the services I was using. But today, just to kind of clarify, I do have, excuse me, a property manager and things of that nature. So for the property managers, they do use Appfolio. All right. So I'm able to look at my properties using Appfolio. They just changed it from Buildium,
Yeah.
just so you guys know, right? So Buildium was the one before. For my personal CRM, my client relation or customer relationship manager, whatever you want to call it, is Joinosity.
Hmm.
I actually know the owner of that company, and so I could work with him behind the scenes. Beautiful program. What other? What other thing? Oh, QuickBooks online for all of my company's financials, all of my properties financials. What? Just name. I guess Sami, just list out other tools or purposes for the software, and I can provide you, I guess, a better
Yeah.
summary.
I'm guessing he's saying like send me finding properties or finding deals in a way. I use PropStream. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't focus too much on single family, Sami. I focus a lot on commercial. So I currently use Reonomy, and I also have access to Crexy if I
Hmm.
wanted to do those two for commercial for finding properties. Those
Okay.
find properties, those allow me to skip trace everything from them. They find the owners, the phone numbers, emails, all that.
Is that because you're a realtor or is that
Yes. So I get access because I'm still a licensed broker, but you can pay for those services just like you would
nice.
with PropStream or Deal Machine or anything else.
What was that? What was that one called again?
Reonomy or
Re-
Crexy.
Okay.
Crexy is probably more popular. It's more popular. Not probably. It definitely is more popular. Yeah.
Now, why do you use one or the other?
So it's just a different type of information. So Reonomy was the first one that I learned to use, so I'm just a lot
Mhm.
more comfortable on it. Crexy does provide a little bit more information on sold data and stuff like that. So if you're looking to pull comps, you can use Crexy a little bit more effectively. Reonomy is much more of like a database resource,
Nice.
right? You would print off the list of, and you can refine the list very well with inside. I'm still here, guys, but sorry, this camera, it's good quality, but it don't last long.
No,
All
that's
right,
great quality. So
yeah,
what I want to ask you some deep questions here.
send it.
Uh, what is your greatest accomplishment so far in your life?
Oh, that is a good one. All right. So the greatest accomplishment for me in my life was graduating from college with my bachelor's degree. Because nobody in my immediate family has done that. And for my younger siblings, they didn't know that that was possible, right? The potential was there. So by me doing that and seeing the joy in my mother's eyes, my father's eyes, and me knowing that that kind of showed my younger siblings like, yo, we can do more than the generation before us. Um, I think that was probably one of the most important moments.
Nice. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Uh, and did you have like, what event in your life was like the hardest, I guess?
The hardest event for me ever was Special Forces selection. But I'm going to tell you why. It
Why?
wasn't because of the physicality or anything like that. At the end of it, when I just got the news that I was selected, they give us back our phones for the first time. So I got my phone and I saw that there were several missed calls from my best friend in the world when we were growing up. And there were several missed calls from his dad. So I tried to call him several times. He didn't pick up. I called his dad. His dad didn't pick up, and his dad texted me back. He said, "Hey man, just we tried to get in touch with you, but Guillermo passed away." And I didn't believe it, so I made a joke, right? And then his sister called me, and she was like, "Nah, man, he passed away. We already had the funeral. Everything happened." At that point, it was the hardest time for me because it was supposed to be such a joyous time,
Yeah.
but it was one of the most painful times. And that was the pivotal moment where I could have took it one of two ways. At that point in time, I took it as, hey, look, whatever my military career is, I'm going to give my best effort in honor of him.
Mhm.
But I could have, that was young, that was ego kind of driven, because I could have looked at it as in like, yo, life is short. Maybe don't put all your eggs in the basket for the military and foster those relationships outside of the military, which I didn't do that. Right. In hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have.
Man, that's deep. I'm glad that you share that with us. And did you have like a moment in your life that you were so embarrassed that you just wanted to disappear?
Yo, man, I'm not telling them type stories. Yo, I got some good ones, man, but I know this is going out to people. So let me think of one. One immediately came up to my mind because I was in high school and there was this girl I liked. Oh my goodness, we're gonna leave it at that. Let's see. Oh man, embarrassing. Man, there's so many good ones too. Let's do. I don't know, man. Now the only one I can think of is the high school. All right, so I'm gonna tell you the high school.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna tell you the high school. But it don't leave this room.
Okay,
all right?
okay.
If somebody come up to me, I'm looking at all of y'all in here. All right, so check this out. There was this girl I really liked, right? I was a freshman. So I first moved to Houston. I was with my dad. I was excited to be out there. And as you can imagine, it's the first little hot, she's a hot little girl. I've seen her. It's like, cool. So her dad knew I was feeling her, right? And he was like, "Oh, you're a respectful young man. How about this? I'm gonna take y'all both out to grab some dinner, right? So we have dinner as kind of like a little mini family." I'm like, "Yeah, cool, cool." So my little brother, all of a sudden, he got to tag along. Now I'm like, gonna throw off my game. So we get out there. We're all eating this thing, everybody talking. We're eating it, and about halfway through the burger, my stomach just gets the just all kinds of noise, right? I said, "Oh hell no." So we eat and I try to finish. I leave a little back. I said, "Hey, I'll be right back. I'll be right back." Try to go find the restroom. There's no restroom in the restaurant, right? So, but we're inside of a mall. I forgot that. I'm running around the mall. Now, what turned to a fast walk turned into a sprint and I'm sweating. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, and the security guard's like, "Hey, stop running." I said, "Where's the bathroom?" "Down there." She said, "Stop." I just went. By the time I get this close to the door of the bathroom and I push it open, my body just relaxed and released. Bro, it's so embarrassing. I'm 14. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm damn near a grown man. So I get in there and I can't stop it. So I get in there, I clean up, I basically throw away the underwear and say, "No, I can't go back out there like that." I'm using the paper towels. I'm in there for about 30 minutes, basically shower, right? I get back out And I took so long. By the time I get back, they're like, yeah, well, it's time for us to go. I'm like, okay. So we get in the car, bro. And the worst part is it was one of those old school trucks. Y'all remember this? The old school truck, single cab, where you have to move the seat forward and sit in the back, and there's like a
Yeah.
little stool that popped down.
Yeah.
But he's like,
Yeah.
I was in the back with her. Bro,
Oh.
I was just I was like, can we open up a window? Oh my God. Most embarrassing moment of my life.
Damn.
Yeah.
What did she say afterwards?
Oh, she didn't know. She didn't. Well, she never. No, I'm gonna put it this way: she never addressed it. She never said nothing after that. But she also stopped talking to me. So
Okay.
I feel like
yeah,
she
knew.
might have known. But my
And-
little brother never knew. I actually just told him. No lie, like 3 months ago, I told him the truth. He was like, "What? No wonder you were quiet." Like he just heard about it.
Now, is there something that you dreamed of doing for a long time? And like, is there a reason why you haven't done it yet?
Honestly, man, something I really want to do in life is be super fluent in Spanish. And I've tried a lot of times, man, but I'm never disciplined to it.
Yeah.
I don't really have a reason. And I don't really have a reason, man. It's just I never put it up high enough on the priority. But I mean, there's times where I can imagine like I'm just fluent, like just getting it. But I've never put into work, man.
No, you're good. And do you have like do you have something that people just like you have an opposite opinion? Like people agree on this, but you have like an opposite opinion on something. Do you have something like that that goes
I'm
against
sure
the
I
masses?
do. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I do. Now I'm trying to think where people are like, no, I don't agree with that. Man. Well, okay, kind of like this. So a lot of people feel like if something negative or somebody shows aggression, like you should show aggression back. Otherwise, you're giving off a weak front, right? At least a lot of people I talk to believe that anyway. But I agree the exact opposite. I believe like if you're showing aggression or showing disdain or whatever, just respond in calm, right? It's cool, man. Now, I mean, as men, we need to be prepared to defend ourselves, right? I'm not saying just ball up and just take it, but respond calmly. Because what we can't control, what we cannot control is if the person woke up on the wrong side of the bed, if the person just had a loss in their family, if the person drank too much before they got behind the wheel. We can't control any of that. The one thing we can control is how we react.
Yeah.
And if we choose to just keep it calm, most of the time we can keep it pushing.
Man, that's good. That's good right there. And is there, before we move on to the ending questions, there's two more deep questions we got here. What is it? What is it? What is the biggest opportunity that you've given up so far? Well, actually, let's do a part 2 with that. What's also the biggest sacrifice you made?
Oh, man. These are some deep questions. All right. Biggest opportunity and sacrifice. You know, it's hard to say on the opportunity. I'm going to be honest with you because a lot of things look like an opportunity in the present.
Yeah.
But without us moving forward in the future, far in the future, we can't see if they ever panned out. We can't, right? So there's a lot of things that I've turned down. There's a lot of people I haven't worked with. There's a lot of projects I haven't worked on just because either I just wasn't ready at the time or maybe I didn't feel like the group was tight enough or had the same vision that I passed on. So we'll say this, we're going to find out here in about 10 or 15 years if I missed on something big. And then as far as the biggest sacrifice, at one point in time, the biggest sacrifice I made was on my health. It was right after we got out of the military, and I was still working on the company. In the military, you know, we're forced into fitness.
Yeah.
As soon as you transition out, it's your discipline that's going to keep you going. And I allowed that to slack. And then, you know, I was wondering, why am I just angry and hurting all the time and not feeling full of energy? And I finally just look at myself in the mirror, and I actually got up to about 240 pounds, man. I'm about
God.
I know it was big. I was sitting on it, man. I'm about 190 now, so you can just
congratulations.
The difference.
Yeah,
it wasn't muscle, you know, it wasn't muscle at all. So yeah, that was probably the biggest sacrifice. But luckily, that's something that we can control, right? And so as long as we stay disciplined moving forward, you know, we can kind of control those.
Yeah, and well, the last deep question here. What do you think people will say in your funeral?
You know, there's no way for me to tell. What I would hope that people would say was that Mike was a good man. He was a good family man. He took care of his. He helped as many people as he could, right? And he changed a few lives along the way.
And that's good. That's good. I love it. And you definitely have changed a lot of people's lives. Okay.
I try, man. I try.
Now, the ending questions here. If you can go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Ooh. To not wear do-rags. No, I'm playing. All right, let me see. Let me think about it. Younger me. Oh, so many things. Oh, I would, you know what I would say? I said, be patient. Be patient. There's a lot of times, we just pull the trigger because it's shiny object. There's so many. Matter of fact, that money I got when I joined the Guard, that 20,000, I blew it. I blew all but like 5,000 on buying cars that I was flipping. But the problem was I was paying too much and taking too long to flip them because I was having fun. You know what I mean? So yeah, being patient is something that I'm still working on. But yeah, I definitely would have told my younger self that.
Nice. And what question would you ask your future self?
I would say, what in life or where in life did you find the most happiness?
That's a good one. That's a good one. And what do you think the secret sauce is into becoming successful?
Oh, the secret sauce is the ability to adapt and overcome. That's the old military term. But seriously, being able to, look at objections as they're coming at you. I can't even speak right. Look at the situation, realize what's going on, and then make the change. Adapt instead of letting it bog you down. That's the secret to success, because life is always going to throw us curveballs, always going to throw us obstacles. There's a quote by Steve Marioli, I believe that's his name. He says, life doesn't get easier. We simply get stronger and more resistant. It's like, bro, that's the truth. You know what I mean? So I think that's the secret to ultimate success.
And that's true. That's true. And I said it, like, what quote do you live by? I mean, you just answered it.
There's so many. Do
you have another one?
Man, there's so many quotes. I love quotes, right? I'll tell you this one though. This one I've recently discovered, and it's kind of changed my outlook on life.
Let me hear it.
So Albert Einstein says that creativity is just intelligence having fun. And a lot of times we forget, especially as we experience the real world, is like, yo, we can have fun. We can allow our imagination to go back when we was young playing Power Rangers and whatever else. Like, we can allow that to happen as adults. And if we do allow that to happen, well, then the ideas and the creative approaches that we can come up with are endless. So that's another one.
Man, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna take that now. I'm gonna put that in use now. Thank you for telling me that. And what books would you recommend for certain situations or parts of your life?
Oh, this is great. All right. So for the ups and downs, I got it. Well, let's go straight for mindset in the beginning, especially if you're on the fence. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. That was the book that changed everything for me. All it is, basically, would you rather take $1 million today? No, $3 million today, I think, or a penny that doubles every day for the next 30 days. Most people say the 3 million, but that penny actually comes to be more than $3 million in 30 days. That's the effect of compound. Man, there's so many good books. Oh, the Almanac of Novel.
The Alchemist?
Rimacont. The Almanac of Novel Rivacont.
The Almanac.
Yeah, look that up. I might be messing the name up, but I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that about?
That's a good book. So this guy's been successful in business for eons right now, like decades or whatever. But he's also been studying philosophy for the past 30 years. And so he ties the philosophy of life and psychology into his business decisions and his overall wealth and wellness. Health and wellness. I'm sorry, I'm throwing it off. But and I read that book, man, and that is just a good book to kind of bring you back to reality, to say, okay, hold on, there is a separation here between business and life, right? We actually can find a sort of balance in between there if we always keep that in mind or in perspective.
Man, that's good. I'm gonna read that book now. That's a good book. I never heard of that one. Okay. And before we move on to the last two questions here, we have a special segment here. It's called Spinning the Wheel. You're only going to see this in this podcast only. Here it is. I probably got to work on adding more questions on here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it. I can see
Okay.
it.
I want to move it. Let's see what you get.
If I get funny story, you got to switch that one, man. I already gave y'all the worst one.
You did. All right. Okay. Oh. Who is one person you would like to talk to, whether it's a celebrity, someone that's
Oh.
dead? Who would you like?
Oh, one person I would like to talk.
If you're a big history guy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'd like to talk to Napoleon. I like to talk to Napoleon. Yo, check it out. Don't hear me out.
Go ahead. Explain.
You know, this dude he conquered the majority of the nations over there on Europe and Africa and all that. But at the time of his death, he was only like 24, 25.
Really?
Yeah, the dude was young. So I want to talk to him and be like, yo, what's the secret? How did you get the masses to follow you? Right. And he was stomping across these things at a young age. So I want to talk to him.
Man, that's crazy. I didn't know he was like that young doing all that
He was
stuff.
he was a young cat. That just makes the story a hell of a lot more interesting though. Now when you think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be my guy.
Man, that's okay. I gotta look back into my history right now. And second to last question here. Is there anything you would like to tell your mother, father, and your brother and sisters?
I love you. I think that's it. Plain and simple.
I love that.
Yeah, it is.
And finally, how can people reach out to you?
So right now, the best way to find me is going to be on YouTube. YouTube would probably be the best way. You could, my channel is Michael S. Glaspie, or you can look up CRE Made Easy. That name may change a little bit, but that's probably the best way. If you leave in comments there, I can respond to the comments. My website's going under reconstruction at the moment, and yeah, that's probably the best way.
Nice. And you said you have a book out, right? Correct, Mike?
Yes, The Elite Investor.
Nice. And what can people learn from that book?
So that book is kind of a walkthrough of my journey through real estate from a childhood and my understanding of money. And then some of the practices that I actually put into place to help the business, help my businesses sustain, grow, and things of that nature. Right paperwork, right mindset, different things of that nature. So what people can get from that is seeing a different point of view that may be different than yours or may complement yours. But you can actually see from my eyes how I made decisions and what kind of impacted those decisions along the way.
Nice, man. Thank you for coming on to this podcast. We appreciate you. And thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you all for being on here. All the great questions. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
See you guys soon.